buddies and take your seat in time for everyone's favorite bit, the trailers.
Hello and welcome to today's video, and today I'm going to be talking about why I think that the Alton Towers Scarefest lineup structure might change within the next few years. And this all started when the other day when Alton Towers officially revealed their Scarefest lineup for this year, and obviously there was the usual rehashed maze lineup from last year being Altonville Mine Tours, but this time with a slightly new name, Tiny's Revenge, as well as them bringing back Darkest Depths, The Attic, and for some reason The Invitation. And before I'm going into the actual what I want to talk about, I was thinking, why are they bringing back The Invitation? It was one of the most poorly received attractions in all of Scarefest. So I don't get this decision to bring it back was baffling. Even Fort Park have scrapped their Dark Field audio attraction terminal because of poor reception, and that was probably worse than The Invitation. But yeah, I don't think Invitation will receive any improvements for this year, but if it does, then great, but it's very unlikely. But yeah, that's not what I want to talk about in this video today. What I want to talk about is the two new additions to the Scarefest lineup for this year. I would say 3, but that's kind of a stretch because Altonville Mine Tours Tiny's Revenge is literally just a rename of a previous Scare Maze, Altonville Mine Tours. But the 2 new additions that were announced for Scarefest this season was a brand new Scare Maze / escape room called Daz Games Panic, which is in collaboration with the YouTuber Daz Black, and a brand new Scare Zone, which Alton Towers haven't done in at least 5 or 6 years, called Burial Grounds, which is going to be themed around Wicker Man. Now obviously, 2 brand new attractions at Scarefest is actually pretty good compared to what they've got the last couple of years, where it's only been like maybe 1 major addition, because this is probably going to be the best Scarefest lineup since, I would say 2020, but they didn't have Scare Zones back then. Now obviously the last major Scare Maze added to Alton Towers for Scarefest was in 2020 with Freak Show Toxic Junkyard, and that only operated for 2 seasons before being replaced by The Invitation and Audio Experience from Darkfield. Since 2020 they've got on Trick or Treat Time, which is more of a sort of family walkthrough experience, as less of a Scare Maze, and then 2022 was obviously The Invitation, and this year we're getting Daz Games Panic, which technically isn't a Scare Maze, they're listing it as a Scare Attraction, which is probably why you have to book it separate from the other Scare Mazes. It's going to have incorporate elements of a Scare Maze into it, but it's going to be more like an escape room, which obviously as well as a lot of people still wanting a brand new traditional Scare Maze, which I haven't had in quite a while. The fact that they're still trying something new is pretty good. Although last year they tried something new with The Invitation, with the audio experience, and obviously, like I said, a lot of people didn't like that attraction. Because literally, it was very disappointing. In fact, I've literally got a mock POV of The Invitation right here. I'm going to show it to you now. That was just a snippet of it, but just imagine that, but extended for 10 minutes and hearing sounds of vampires talking and killing people. That's literally it. But yeah, this season, overall, the lineup that they've announced, or the new lineup anyway, looks actually pretty interesting. I did say in my most recent Coast News that this could actually be probably the start of Scarefest's gradual change into what it used to be like, where it had a lot more like variety with its Scare lineup. Now obviously, like I said in that video, I don't think one new Scare experience and a Scare Zone is going to save Scarefest, but I don't expect it to immediately. What I do think is this: if Scarefest is going to return to its form of glory, it's going to be more of a gradual thing. Like, it might take a couple of years, but it will be great. Now obviously, we've got the full lineup, but I just want to point out there's been rumours going about, as of earlier today at the time of recording, when Alton Towers posted this picture on social media, basically showing one of the former laser guns from Duel, which is obviously now known as Curse Alton Manor. And the main sort of rumour going about is that it's going to be Alton Towers auctioning off all the old ride parts from Duel, which I think is the most likely scenario for whatever this is. Obviously the post came with a tagline, something's coming, but you have to duel for it. and there's been rumours going about we might get like a Duel or Alton Manor themed scare zone somewhere. I don't think that's likely, because if that was going to be happening, they would have announced it by now. And I don't think they're going to be having like any surprise reveals for any like new scare attractions between now and when Scarefest starts. Obviously, if we did, as much as I'd love to see like an Alton Manor scare zone, or a Duel scare zone, or even something like what Fort Park had a few years ago with like the, what was it called, Zombie Quest or whatever it was. Basically when they had the Year of the Walking Dead in 2018, they had this scare attraction that operated in the middle of summer. It weren't even like at Fright Nights, but it was like a scare maze, but it had laser guns to shoot the zombies. So basically, if Duel was a scare maze, and it was actually looked pretty interesting. I'm pretty sure it only operated for that 1 year though, and it never returned. But obviously, yes, do I think that this new Scarefest lineup will save Scarefest? Not immediately, but more gradually as the years progress. I do think this is probably going to be, definitely because of this new lineup, it's going to be better than previous Scarefests in the past couple of years. I don't think it will compare to like 5 or 6 years ago when it had loads of different like scare zones. And I was actually looking through some old videos online of like the scare zone walkthroughs, things like Dark Apocalypse or Nox Infernus or the Zombie Scare Zone. And the fact that Alton Towers were able to create these experiences actually look really amazing and quite terrifying as well. And I'm hoping that they'll bring that same level of immersion to their new Burial Ground scare zone, which is going to be themed around Wickerman, and we assume it's going to go in like the front sort of area in Wickerman, because on the description of the website, that whole area will be like sort of over the towering Wickerman statue, so it's presumably going to be in that front area near the right entrance. But obviously, if it's good, I know Alton Towers are trying to, by the looks of it, they're trialing scare zones again with Burial Grounds. But if it's successful, does this mean that they'll implement scare zones into the full lineup within the next few years? Like maybe more scare zones than just Burial Grounds? I mean, who knows? There was rumours going about of a Nemesis themed scare maze or scare zone for this year's Scarefest. Obviously that won't be happening by the looks of it, but I do think next year is probably a better year to add like a Nemesis or Phalanx scare zone, because obviously Nemesis will reopen next year, and that means that for a whole area of Forbidden Valley is going to have a lot more foot traffic and hype around it, so it makes more sense to add a Nemesis scare zone next season as opposed to this season. But obviously I do think that if Burial Grounds is successful, then I do think this could hopefully bring scare zones back to Alton Towers, which is what we all want. And also the addition of Daz Games Panic. I don't think it, hopefully after this they'll start adding more traditional scare mazes, but if they want to keep trying new different scare experiences like a escape room type thing, then to be honest, let them. But I do at the same time think that they should completely overhaul the existing scare maze lineup, because the newest scare mazes currently that we have operating are Darkest Depths and Attic, which both opened in the same year. Those are from 2019. That was 4 years ago. This is its 5th season of operation. And obviously Altonville Mine Tours, this is its 8th season of operation. It first opened back in 2016. You'd think that they'd actually add some brand new scare mazes in. And literally even replaced their newest scare maze, Toxic Junkyard, with the Invitation, which was kind of a controversial decision in my opinion. But hopefully, if this year's Scarefest is well received, or at least better received than the last couple of years, then they should hopefully, fingers crossed, influence Merlin to actually put in the sort of effort that in their Scarefest event that they do with like Fright Nights or even Chessington Halloween. Even though Chessington is more of a family-friendly theme park than Alton Towers, Chessington's Halloween still has a more varied scare lineup. With Halloween, they have scare zones and all, which is like what Alton Towers used to have. But hopefully, I do think this is actually a sign of hope for the future for Scarefest. Hopefully there'll be a lot more varied lineup and more scare attractions, which would really be cool to see. But what do you guys think? What kind of scare zones or scare attractions would you like to see come to Scarefest in the near future? Let me know in the comments. I want to thank you all very much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it then please make sure to like and subscribe, and comment what you would like to see in the next video. Bye!